Hi, my name is Riley Allen. This is my review of Chapter 5 of Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, titled I Play Pinochle, whatever, with a horse. So Percy kind of wakes up, not fully, but a little bit, and he wakes up to this girl kind of harassing him and questioning him about what's happening on the summer solstice, whatever, what's going on and shit, which... what the hell, man? Oof. He passes out. And he wakes up properly. And he's trying to, gaslight himself into saying, it's a dream. It was just a dream. And then Grover comes in with... knocks off his, shoe, which... he covered his hooves with. I don't know why he's covering his hooves, though. He's in Camp Half-Blood now. He's safe. He hands Percy his spoil of war and gives him some nectar, which tastes to Percy like his mom's cookies. And thus, Grover tells him not to drink anymore, because I think we learn later on that if you drink too much, you kind of burn up or whatever. So, but Grover doesn't tell Percy this, because people ain't gonna tell Percy shit. So, he gets to where Mr. D, Dionysus, the god of, wine and madness, and Sharon is, or Mr. Bruner. Percy immediately doesn't trust Mr. D, because he reminds him of Gabe, I guess. He states, if somebody was hitting happy juice, if we've learned one thing from more than with Gabe, it's to tell when someone's been hitting the happy juice. And all I can think is, why the hell is the god of wine in charge of traumatized children? I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think is there a single demigod we know that comes from a good background? I mean, yes, Percy has a good mother, but he's also got Gabe. So we learn that the gods are real, but nobody's telling Percy that he's a demigod. Why don't... And apparently... his situation is too dire or whatever for the regular orientation film. Which I'm pretty sure would have told him point blank, hey, so you're a demigod. This is what's going to happen now. Instead, Sharon's just talking about the gods and that they're real, but it's not telling Percy about what he has to do with it. It's kind of like, I mean, sure, maybe Percy could eventually figure it out that he's a demigod, but it's kind of like, it's kind of like when you time travel, and you don't plan on time traveling. You go back in time and you go through all the other excuses before you eventually settle on, oh yeah, I've time traveled. You're not gonna immediately go to your demigod first, despite knowing that, the gods are real. You're just not. So, Sharon's kind of a dick, I'm gonna be honest. He tells Percy he's glad he didn't waste his time by going upstate, and that he's still alive as reaching camp as the first test. Which is awful, man. Like, these are children. Congratulations, you're still alive. That was the first test. That is awful. And then Mr. D kind of says something that I do agree with. Percy tells him that his mom didn't want to send him to camp because she was afraid he'd never leave again. And Mr. D says that's how they get killed. Mind you, Mr. D has demigods currently and has had demigods in the past, and I'm sure he's speaking from experience. He's probably lost a kid or two because the parents were too afraid to send him to camp, and it got him killed because they didn't have no training. Yeah. So, and then Mr. D reveals that he's a god. And when Percy's like, you're a god, you. He proceeds to give Percy some visions of like death and destruction, whatever. You know, basically flexing his godly powers. I mean, we can't have the poor god get punked by a 12-year-old mortal. Where would we be with that? So he and Grover leave while Chiron, whatever, explains the gods and how they moved to Rome, and he proceeds to say that they changed their names, you know, Zeus, Jupiter, Hera, Juno, and whatever, and I'm just sitting here thinking, is this a retcon? Because it's retconned, or it's later stated that, you know, that they're not really supposed to mix. The Greeks and the Romans aren't really supposed to mix, and they're not really supposed to talk about them. What was the point of that? Why did Chiron need to explain that they did change the names? Was it just like a throwaway line, hoping you didn't, you know, catch on? Anyway, he proceeds to come out of his wheelchair, showing off his horse form, and to take Percy on the tour. I will say this, I loved Percy's grief, you know, he's explaining all these beautiful things he's noticed about the camp and said, it shouldn't be beautiful, it should be dark and gray. His mother's dead. Oh, man. So, I'm guessing they're not going to explain anything more to Percy in the next chapter, because where's the fun in just saying point blank, you're a demigod? I mean, didn't they learn anything from Harry Potter? Harry Potter learned that he was a wizard point blank. You're a wizard, Harry. Harry, you're a wizard. And he still had a shit ton of trouble. I mean, just tell Percy he's a demigod so we don't have that to contend with, and you can just figure out what it means to be a demigod, but whatever. Like, I get it story-wise, it makes a better story, but it just makes the characters seem incompetent. Like, why wouldn't you just clear the air, sit the child down, and explain everything point blank? You're a demigod, you know, this is the camp's purpose, yada, 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 yada. Like, it doesn't, like, I guess it kind of makes a good story because it builds suspense, like, trying to figure out what the hell's going on, but it makes a character like Chiron seem incompetent. And I don't think that's the point that Chiron should be incompetent. But it makes it seem like that when, you know, he just, yeah. Overall, this chapter was eh. It honestly wasn't really my favorite. I don't know. I just couldn't really enjoy it that much. It wasn't an awful chapter. I just didn't really enjoy it. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Thanks for watching the video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want, and I'll see you in the next video.